You're listening to Keith Engle, the host of TGI Sports Talk on the National Streaming Sports Roku channel.
Football season is here, and SeatGeek is my go-to for buying tickets. Now with SeatGeek, every single ticket is backed with their buyer guarantee. We've all had plans change, and when you can't make it to the big game, SeatGeek has you covered. They're the only ticketer that allows you to return your tickets ahead of the event for credit with SeatGeek swaps. So when things come up, I know that my tickets won't go to waste. So what are you waiting for? Download the SeatGeek app to maximize your possibilities and shop live events with confidence.
Good morning, everybody. Keith Engle here with TGI Sports Talk Sunday stream of consciousness. Hopefully everybody can see us. I know we're not live yet. Well, we're live. You got to go to, if you see my profile picture live, then we are live. It looks like maybe, no, that's just so, I don't know why we don't go live when I go live. I think it's got something to do with sharing the show before me. Hate to do that. Hate holding you guys up, but we're going to make a couple quick moves here. I want to thank everybody watching this morning on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter. Watching, I got to save this and then go back. Hold on, do this. Twitter, we're live on the National Streaming Sports Roku channel. That's also not my thing. Want to thank all the groups that allow us to share the show, which is certainly John Gonzalez, who was just quickly on the big football show this morning, which we talked a lot of basketball and some NFL. We'll get into some of those topics here. Also want to welcome or thank all the groups. As I said, I started saying that. All the other groups. Greg Rawlings at the America's Pastime, America's Pastime, The Love of Baseball. Flo and the Gang at Bottom Line Sports. Let's Talk Sports. Ken Krause at, let me get rid of this music. Ken Krause at Golf Buds, Sports of All Sorts, and so many other groups that let me share and let us get to those thousands of views every week. DDH thumbs up. We want to thank the people at SeatGeeks as well. And they're a great sponsor of this show, and we'll go further. Having a little trouble with the monetary portion of, we're not making much money, by the way. We're making like dollars. Looks like we're live now on the stream, so that'll help. The viewership, anyway, always something with Facebook. So any of you who are contributing, we certainly appreciate that. And we're also monetized with Facebook now, where they'll just, put in little snippets of the show in the feed you see through reels, videos, and whatnot. And, we get $1 here, $2 here, $5 here. Certainly not retiring on that money, but we are retiring, by the way, in 178 days. Whoops, can you see that? Too close. Yes, that includes weekends, by the way. So we're getting close. By the way, I want to thank Jim Beringer for coming on Friday and talking NHL. So if you got an NHL fix, we can talk some NHL today if you want. They had the Outdoor Classic, I think, is today. They'll be honoring the two brothers that were killed tragically, the Columbus Blue Jacket players. I'll say their names wrong, I know. But you can talk about that. And anything you want to talk about in hockey, we can talk about the Four Nations Classic, which will continue. But Jim's got a lot of information on that. Check out Friday's show. Coming up on the one-on-one series, some of the people we're in contact with to chat with soon are Jenny Paul, Gay Paul's daughter, who wrote a book, Yankee Princess, covering her dad's time in baseball, growing up as a baseball brat, if you will. She dated Billy Martin when her dad was the president of the club. She's got some interesting stories to tell. She was an airline stewardess, a TV reporter, all these things at once. We're in contact with her. Kevin Bryant, who's written some books that are kind of, I think, prescient today about, teams and how they can get competitive edge. And it goes into a lot of different detail. We'll get him on soon. Wes Pritchett, who was the defensive captain of the 1988 Notre Dame National Championship, their last national championship team that played under Lou Holtz. Neil Lunsden, who was a Canadian football player who's a politician in Canada now. Might be an interesting time to have him on. But he's also agreed to donate his brain to science when he dies. And many others that we've talked about recently. What's this one I got up here? I can't read. Oh, Mike Westhoff, we've talked to recently about having him on, one of the great special team coaches in the NFL. Had to retire from Denver last year due to some health issues. But Mike's got a book out that we can chat about and some other stuff as well. What are we going to talk about today? We got lots of stuff going on. College basketball, we had some teams that helped themselves yesterday, teams that hurt themselves yesterday. As far as bubble teams, we can get into any of that. St. John's wins their first Big East championship since 1985. That's 40 years ago, guys. They went to the Final Four that year. Duke rolls again. Cooper Flagg banged up but played well. KU loses again. They're talking about expanding the tournament as soon as next year, by the way, to 72 or 76 teams. We can talk about that. NFL stuff. We can talk about the top picks, who might be up or down the board. The first down measurement technology. Great. We need more technology in the game. Deebo Samuel traded for a 5th-round draft pick to the Redskins. Stafford resigns with the Rams. Rodgers may be a Giant. Major League Baseball, IBS, what are your thoughts there? Rose possibly be reinstated. A couple things there. The president put out an interesting tweet about this, and I think unrelated to that, Rob Manfred has said he's thinking about taking Pete Rose off the restricted list and putting him, which would make him eligible. By the way, the Baseball Hall of Fame and Major League Baseball really have nothing to do with them on each other. Just to be clear, as we talk about this topic, the Hall of Fame has a rule that anybody on the ineligible list of MLB cannot be considered for the Hall of Fame vote. Well, so two things can happen. Baseball could take him off the restricted list, or the Hall of Fame could change their rule, which would also make Joe Jackson and some others eligible, by the way. Yankees really banged up. Stanton, LeMahieu, Heel. Luis Pujols will be managing the Dominican Republic in the WBC. You guys may not care about it. I think it's a big deal, and I like it. North Carolina in football, Bill Belichick would never be part of the Hard Knocks and was never in a position where he had to say no, I don't believe, or had to be forced to do it. In the NFL with the Patriots, they're going to introduce a college version of the Hard Knocks off season, and it looks like North Carolina may be that team. What else? The committee's talking about this year potentially changing seedings. And then watch out, because when this contract ends in 26, you're going to see some big changes, and the SEC and the Big Ten are going to ruin this tournament. They're also talked about fake injuries and stuff. The NBA, we could talk about who's hot, who's not over there. Knicks playing well. Nice comeback by the Cavs last night, down 22 to the Celtics, when they're 9th in a row, and they beat the Celtics a few times. And then the NHL, whatever you guys want to talk about. So there's a few things. We got a bunch of comments already. Let's jump in and see what we got. And it's your show, guys, so you can talk about anything you want. Good morning, JB, for the Back It Up Binge podcast. Good morning. Good to have you with us, JB, as always. Big Baltimore fan. We don't need that one. Good morning, Drew. Good to have you with us. Rick Sherlock. Never know where Rick's going. Rick and Paul, and we got so many guys who come on their different logins. Rick looks to be on YouTube this morning. Rick, what time did it say the show would be airing on YouTube? I was on YouTube last night watching some documentaries before I went to sleep, which is my want, because I don't know why I do this, but I do it. I'm a big Watergate buff, and I spent a lot of time watching documentaries about Watergate and reading books about Watergate. I don't know why. Fascinated by the whole era. But anyway, I came across the show and just the posting that they put up about the time, and it said 1:30 in the afternoon, but the hours till the show was correct. It was like 10 hours at the time. But it showed it like 1:30 p.m. Paul Spada up in Wisconsin, our Boston boy up in Wisconsin, also roots for teams elsewhere. Good to see you, Paul. 2 points from me. One interview, new interview airing tomorrow night on his channel with Hall of Fame Larry Little. That's a good get. Hall of Fame guard, I want to say, from Miami, the Dolphins. Great job. Number 2, optically, putting Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame posthumously can be seen as a slap in the face. Yes, but what do? You leave him out forever just so you don't slap him in the face? They got what they wanted. He didn't live to see his induction. I think it's awful. I've said forever, Pete Rose should be in the Hall of Fame. And Pete Rose, just to be clear, is all over the Hall of Fame. His bat's there, his gloves there. There's all kinds of Pete Rose memorabilia. There's just no plaque. And you can put on the plaque. And I've said this about all the guys who have been either officially banned from being inducted or the writers have taken upon themselves to keep them out. Put them in and tell their stories, warts and all. So good point. It will be a slap in the face, and that's what MLB likely wanted. And it's sad. I'm back in my front, too. Good to have you with us, John Gonzalez from the Sports Authority, who I mentioned earlier. One of the great groups. I mean, God, you talk about some of the groups where I see people big lists of people being added each week, a couple times a week. John's doing a great job there, along with the other admins that I mentioned in the opening, along with a lot of others. But John is top notch, man. And John and I have been hooked up basically since the day I started this show over 5 years ago now, I think. I had said last week, because the movement last week was on, I think it was on the Mac and Jack show Friday morning. We were talking about where we thought he'd end up. Maybe it was on Wednesday, actually, the professional National Streaming Sports professional sports show, where we thought he'd end up. And I said I thought he'd end up back with the Rams. I think he wanted to stay there. I think his wife wanted to stay there. He could have probably got more money if he'd gone to New York, let's say, or even the Raiders. I think his situation is better there. He probably likes his living situation. He's got a better chance to win with the Rams than he does with the Giants, sadly, for the Giant fans. And I don't know if it would have been a great move for the Giants, because you're all in, man, for the next 2 years. He's 37 years old. And his play isn't as good as it was. I mean, he's still as good as anything, better than anything the Giants have thrown out there since Eli Manning retired. Chris F. Grave up north now, I found out. Where'd you tell me you were at? I don't think I have the right. I don't have the right message system up, but Chris is now about an hour and 45 minutes, I think, north of Toronto. He keeps going north. He'll be at the North Pole soon. Chris is migrating as far north as he can. Always good to have him with us. Not irrelevant information. Remember, I've told you guys many times, I have tasked Chris with coming up with some irreverent information. It's fun, obscure. Chris has been taxing me lately. Had some good stuff on the MLB update the other day. What do you got for me this morning? Happy 60th birthday to former third base prospect and Colorado sensation Ron Gant. Gant played with a lot of, well, he played with the Cardinals and the Braves with the most productive. He was a very good player at one point. I think he played some second base, I want to say, too. Played some third base, mostly the outfield. And, for a number of years, a pretty good offensive player. Never a good defensive player. But happy birthday, Ron Gant. I'm playing in the Stratomatic Mystery Tournament right now. And, actually, the Mystery Tournament, and then there's one other 2 franchise tournament or league I play in where you draft 2 franchises and then you play the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, 90s, similar to the Mystery Tournament that I've talked about on this show. And I've got Ron Gant right now on my roster because I have the Cardinals and the Mets in the 2000s, and it's not going well. About 6 games under 500, and Gant stinks. But we'll be rebooting that back to the 60s soon. So I'm going to have I'm going to have 10 teams in play here pretty soon. Ugh. Can't wait to see Rodgers behind the Giants' O-line. I'm happy he'll be back here for the news stories. Or if the Giants will let him go on McAfee's show every week. Remember, when he was trying to save his job with the Jets, he had said, I'll cut out the social media. I'll cut out the outside media like Pat McAfee. I'll come to every mandatory workout, which doesn't seem you should have to be persuaded to come to mandatory workouts. It kind of says right in the name, you need to be there. I'm just here for the sideshow. That's all. And by the way, Joe Shine might think this is a great idea because he's desperate. He's desperate. They need to win this year or Shine and Daboll are gone. If I'm the coach, I don't care how close I am to getting fired. I don't know that I want this guy running my team and put my future in his hands. I'd be better off with a rookie or Sam Darnold at this point. I mean, look, Rodgers' numbers weren't bad, right? Sorry, Paul, I know I clicked on you twice. Rodgers' numbers, you look at them again, like I said about Russell Wilson last offseason. You look at the numbers on paper, they don't look atrocious. They're actually not bad. But when you watch and the eye test tells you he's not the player that he was, or even close. Same thing with Russell Wilson last year. F them, they didn't do it when he was alive. Terrible. Agreed. And it's I think it's a combination of MLB and the Hall of Fame. Because remember, just keep in mind, you got to be mad at both sides. And listen, Pete was responsible for a lot of this himself. Let's not forget. I said he belonged in the Hall of Fame. But for years, Pete lied and would not come clean. He finally came clean, wrote a book. Look, there was money to be made. Pete probably only came clean because he wanted the money. I'm sure he wanted to get in the Hall of Fame. Don't get me wrong. But even after he came clean, he still would not admit how his betting affected his team. And when he didn't bet on them to win, he was effectively betting on them to lose. So I do think, again, that doesn't change my argument. I think he belongs in the Hall of Fame. But let's not absolve Pete Rose of all blame here either. I think it is terrible they didn't let him in, Paul. Just, again, include Pete Rose in your effing of the Hall of Fame and of Major League Baseball. He deserves his own nonsense, too. Rodgers was a disaster. The Jets can't see him doing much with the Giants. Neither can I, John. You see, and I know you see some of these guys up close. I don't know how close you get to interacting with any of them in your situation at MetLife. John works I believe you work for the stadium, right, John? You don't work for either one of the teams. But Johnson's security there, and I believe has been for some time, and does a great job. I've never been accosted by anybody there. Stafford would have been a good fit with a good team. Was Stafford really going to lift this team as it is today? Now, it needs to be improved, but there's no weapons there. There's no Cooper Kupp. There's no Nakua. I can't think say his name. I don't know. And McVay, I think, coaches circles around Daboll, who I kind of like Daboll. I thought he was going to be great things for the Giants when he took them to the playoffs that first year. And Daniel Jones, unfortunately for the Jets, Daniel Jones probably picked the worst time to play his best game of his career against the Vikings. And then they made a bad choice last year. So I don't know if Stafford would have helped this team. He would have helped their credibility. Would he have given a better chance to win? Absolutely. And of the options right now available, yeah. And probably for the money the Rams extended him, it was only $57 million over 3 years, $35 million guaranteed. Maybe it's $57 million a year. Hold on, let me check this out. I was looking at this earlier. What did Stafford get? Oh, I may have just read this earlier when I saw 57. Where is that number? 2000 2 seasons left on the extension. Only $4 million he would have had guaranteed in 2025. I think that was a sticking point. That says 3 years. Oh, that's the that's the offensive lineman. I don't think Stafford's numbers were announced. So my apologies to the crew on the Big Football Show. I may have given some misinformation there. Drew, so great to see so many 2024 injuries coming back in spring training, appearing to be healthy again. Not DJ LeMahieu. Oh, God. We talked about it on this football show or the MLB update show Friday, some of the guys with comeback chances, right? Like Trout. Got to get into the real deal, man. Playing 3 innings and not getting hurt in spring training isn't really that big a test, right? I mean, Ohtani looks like he's coming back, and I'm not saying he needs a comeback because he had a historic season last year, but he did get hurt in the playoffs, and there was some question. It looks like his shoulder appears to be healthy. But there's a lot of guys that are question marks going into this year, and I know, and again, Drew and I have this conversation a lot. Staying healthy, seeing that guys are healthy in spring training is important. I don't pay as much attention to wins and losses and, if veterans struggle, but it's important for injured players. But we need to see them play more than, 3 innings a day, because it is a grind, man, from March now until October. And you got to be able to be in right baseball shape. So we'll see how these guys pan out. I don't root for guys to get hurt. So I hope everybody on the list we talked about Friday and some of the other guys that Drew and others threw out, and probably guys we didn't think about, do well. Watergate, Nixon, president in office the last time my Dolphins won a Super Bowl. Well, maybe we should dig him up and put him in the Oval. By the way, Nixon was a fascinating character. When you read, I've read books on both sides of this, right? Books written by Nixon himself, himself with a writer. I've read books by H.R. Haldeman, books by John Dean, which are very contradictory to each other, by the way. John Ehrlichman, all of the main characters in this thing, I've read books by. And you get a little bit of information from each one of them. And it was a very interesting time. And it's sad because a 2-bit burglary probably derailed what would have been one of the great presidencies ever. And I do follow these things pretty closely through history. I'm not saying I'm an authority, but this was something that if they had not, again, it's a perfect example of, it's not the crime often, it's the cover up. They could have been out of this situation so easy. Plus, you wanted to get information and fix an election you were going to win by a landslide anyway. Chad wants to know when I'm starting my new podcast, I Love Joe Namath Hour. Listen, I think Joe Namath's an upstanding guy. Listen, he had a problem with alcohol and straightened himself out. I have great respect for anybody who recognizes that type of issue and fixes it. We all saw that Susie Colbert thing, but he saw he had a problem. He talks about it very openly. I have great respect for Joe Namath. Again, I really don't mean to disrespect Joe Namath in my thoughts. He has to be in the Hall of Fame because of, again, sometimes it's not the play on the field, although Joe Namath, again, when healthy, was a great player. And the game was different then, I will give you that. But he's in the Hall of Fame because of winning Super Bowl III. And I'm okay with it. I didn't say he didn't belong. Just said he was one of the most overrated in there from a playing standpoint. But I'll also let you know when that show's going to start, John. I'm considering a time about 2 a.m. on Wednesdays when I retire, I think. Stafford restructuring turn the reins was not surprising. Well, actually, it was surprising. I wasn't surprised. Many of the other people in the media were. especially Giant fans and Giant writers and everybody in the Post and everybody in the news who had him pretty much all but saddled up in a Giant uniform. So if they bring back Kupp, listen, this team can still compete, but they need Kupp on this team, I think, or they have to have a reasonable replacement. They've got a decent running game. Their defense is really good. But their window's closing because Stafford, look at, I know it's a 3-year contract. He's 37 years old. He played efficient football most of last year, but he's not the Matthew Stafford that we saw before. Interesting conversation will happen when he retires. Is Matthew Stafford a Hall of Famer? And I know there's a lot of anti-Eli Manning people out there. I'm not a big Eli fan for a lot of reasons, 2 in particular. But if Matthew Stafford gets in the Hall of Fame, which I'm not saying he shouldn't, and you leave Eli Manning out, which I think Manning will get eventually, that'd be an injustice as well. Guys who win 2 Super Bowls, man, they need to be in the Hall of Fame. And again, some of them are gonna have crappy numbers, John, to your point about Namath. I say Jim Plunkett belongs in the Hall of Fame. I'm sure his numbers don't warrant, overall numbers probably wouldn't warrant that. But you win the biggest game twice, especially when you resurrected your career to do it. I think it carries some weight. I don't know. And by the way, I'm not saying Jim Plunkett belongs in there before Joe Namath at all. Where is Danny Fuller, by the way? Get some input on the Stafford deal. Chris says Bird is a word. Greg Bird. Where's he been playing? Mexico? Oh, Medico. I'm hooked on phonics, but I didn't see it when I saw it. And get this, Greg Bird's only 31, out of Major League Baseball. Don't think he'll be back. Yankees have their new Greg Bird and Ben Rice, who they may have to lean on heavily this year if they don't bring in J.D. Martinez, where the rumor mill is or chatting with now, because they have no idea what to expect out of Stanton or even when he'll be back. Tendonitis in both elbows. And again, I'm guessing you didn't get this doing baseball-related activities in the offseason. Just saying. Bob Noto's with us. Hi, Bob. How are you? Hope you're doing well. Bob had some medical issues recently, and we like to always wish our followers well. And Bob, hope you're doing well in your recovery, as we have with several other people in our show. I hope my show doesn't cause these issues. I might get canceled. But Bob, you're right. The Giants don't need Aaron Rodgers. I don't think anybody needs Aaron Rodgers in that distraction. Again, and Bob, you know football. Bob's been a football coach, or had been a football coach for many, many decades in Amsterdam, and coached some great teams. By the way, you had a great and baseball, by the way. And Bob still goes to the Yankee fantasy camps every year. So Bob hobnobs with some pretty big names. But again, Bob, I'd love your opinion if you're still listening. I hope you are. How far behind am I, by the way? Oh, I'm not getting timestamps every hour. 8:45. I'm not too far behind. I said that, you look at Rodgers' numbers, and I said this about Russell Wilson last year. You look at the numbers on paper, and you go, "Oh, he didn't have a bad year." But the eye test says he is not anywhere as close to the player he was. Plus, you got all the distractions of Aaron Rodgers, by the way. The whole McAfee crap. Just you've got to be quiet. What's funny is the Jet players, the offense is not upset he's gone. The defensive players are upset that he's gone. I think it's telling. I think the Jets should sign Darnold. I don't know. I don't know that Darnold. See, Sam Darnold. Listen, he had a great year last year, or very good year last year. Careful with great. But I think you saw near the end of the season, people figured out Sam Darnold. And Sam Darnold flourished last year a lot because of the system that he was in. Kevin O'Connell's a great coach and a great quarterback coach. And I don't know that Darnold needs a perfect situation to flourish. I think if he goes to the Giants, I think he'd be better off with the Raiders, quite frankly, because he's got some real weapons to work with out there, and they seem committed to winning now. Hiring a 73-year-old coach. I think the Raiders would be a better pick for him, or sticking with the Vikings. He'll probably start another year. J.J. McCarthy coming off an injury and being, theoretically a rookie. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know that he'd want to come here, John. And maybe he'd be fine here. I don't know. But again, that offensive line, not a good situation for Sam Darnold. And again, this is the thing. This is not a really strong draft for offensive linemen. And every team in the league, including mine, my team's situation is horrendous when it comes to offensive line. But most of the league is in the same situation. You saw the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, the Giants, the Jets, even good teams. Most of them have bad offensive line situations. And this is not a great draft for offensive line. Drew, we got some birthdays. Miguel Hondo Har. James Caprillion, I don't remember his name. Adalis Garcia, Bud Norris, Jay Gibbons, Terry Steinbeck, an underrated catcher back in the day with the A's on their World Series teams that probably should have won 3 or 4, and I think won 1. Pete Broberg, another name that guy ends up on my Stratomatic team all the time in the 365 online league. Dave Tobick, I skipped over there a second. Don Schwal, Chico Fernandez, Jim Constanti. If I remember right, a reliever with the Phillies, maybe the first. I want to say he's the first Philly to win, or first relief pitcher to win Cy Young. And I wonder if he won the MVP the same year. I'm not sure. We have this conversation about guys that have done both or been considered for both. Drew, Jim it's a hard name for me too. Constanti, we'll say. Underrated or forgotten player, kind of. I've read a lot about him. Mark Cooper, Woody English, and former Hall of Famer Giant Mellott, New York Giant Mellott. Jay Gibbons, that's an Orioles name through the past. I always mix him up with John Gibbons. That is an Oriole name through and through. He probably played with some other teams. I feel like he played with the Mets a little bit too. I'm not sure. But I mix up him and John Gibbons a lot. Yeah, listen, you're getting no argument from me, Paul. I think we're talking about Pete Rose again. No argument from me. He should be in the Hall of Fame. The Royd guys should be in the Hall of Fame. Warts and all. Tell their story on their plaque. Pete Rose, bet on baseball, banned for life. Joe Jackson, same thing. All the Royd guys. How do you have a Hall of Fame without Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens? I get it. But tell their story. They belong in the Hall of Fame. What is interesting, though, I'm wondering, and again, Rob Manfred is considering doing this. I know we hate it because he's dead. Even the president wants him in. He wasn't terribly nice to baseball people in his tweet either. But, I know he's dead, but it's a slap in the face. But your choice is leave him out forever so he never gets slapped in the face. Or you put him in for his family's sake. And again, don't leave Pete Rose out of the equation. Yeah, Stanton's injured again. Definitely on the DL for the start of the season. Yankees have no timetable for his return. That's why they're talking to JD Martinez right now. They may have to lean on Ben Rice and some others, but DJ's hurt as well, which is going to cause some issues in the infield. You're going to have to see Cabrera or Peraza step up, either at second or third base. I know they want Jazz to play second base. So we'll see what happens there. As you know from this show and my other shows, I'm not the biggest Giancarlo Stanton fan of all time. He has a great 2 weeks. He had a wonderful 2 weeks during the playoffs of the World Series, but he disappears for like 6 weeks at a time as well, or he's hurt. Tiger Woods is in the Palm Beach Gardens playing in his second start in the PGA Tour since after securing his card. What? I don't know if I understand that. He doesn't have to secure his card, I don't think, does he? The man's won, 14 major championships. How do you have to secure your card? You're good forever. I don't think he had to go back to Q school or whatever we call it today. By the way, golf book. So we're talking about golf, and it's old. It's this book is 30 years old, probably, or 20 anyway. A Good Walk Spoiled by John Feinstein. Great book. Covers whatever year we're talking about. It covers the Ryder Cup of that year. It also covers some guys who were in the Q school trying to get their card to play on the tour during that Ryder Cup. It covers a controversy with Seve Ballesteros, who was known to. I love Seve, great player, but he was known to. Play a little fast and loose with the rules of golf. And I think Paul Azinger called him out that year. It's a great book. If you like sports books, especially golf books, great book. Chances of Shine and Dabo go with a rookie quarterback, they'll be gone by Halloween. Probably. But I don't know that Rodgers, you already said Rodgers isn't the answer. So what's you said Sam Darnold, right? But the money, I got to believe the money that they're going to have to wrap up in Sam Darnold, man. If they miss, John, I get the thing about the rookie quarterback because I don't think either one of these guys is ready to play. And even if you didn't take a guy early or get one of those guys because they were gone, and you take there are some value picks, I think, later on. Kyle McCord, I think, is a value pick. I think Cam Ewers will be a value pick, second, third, even fourth round, some of these guys. Jackson Dart. But you're not going to win with those guys right away. All of these guys are going to need time to develop. None of them are going to be Stroud, right, or Daniels. They're all going to need a year or two to sit and learn. So you're not going to win with a rookie quarterback. So your choices are Darnold, Cousins, maybe David Carr's available. Are you going to win with any of those guys? And if you miss the other guys, like Cousins would be a short-term thing probably. I'm sure the Falcons will take care of part of that contract just to get rid of them. But if you're going to have to give Darnold 5 years and what? $200 million? You just did that with Daniel Jones. And if you miss, you're in big trouble. So I don't know. I don't know the answer for the Giants. I really don't. I think they're in between a rock and a hard place here. I really do. Am I catching up? Rangers made some trades. Are they gearing up for a stripping down? The New York Rangers. I talked to Jim Barringer about this a little bit on Friday. Chris, they want to win. They think they still have they got to get in the playoffs first. I think they're in fifth place in their division, just out of the playoffs. At least they were the other day. Where are they? Let me just take a quick look. We'll see what they do at the deadline here. Yeah, they're in fifth. They're 6 points still behind the Blue Jackets, who again playing the Outdoor Classic against the Red Wings today. It's going to be a nice. It's going to be an interesting game, and they're going to honor, the tragedy of Gardeas, who I know I'm saying his name wrong, being killed in that tragic accident this last off season. But the Rangers are going to be an interesting team to watch at the trade deadline. I think they can win. I don't think they're gearing up for a stripping down just yet. Maybe after the season, if this fails, Peter Laviolette may be in trouble It's amazing. He had a great year last year, and this year you're just, thanks. LOL, John. Must be for John Gonzalez. JB met Namath and talked to him for about 10 minutes about his rookie card. I've tried to get Joe, John Gonzalez, and JB. I've reached out to Namath a few times with a couple different ways. My Facebook connections and some other people who supposedly had some connections, but I've not had anything come to fruition. I'd love to get Joe on the one-on-one show. Looking forward to doing that at some point. And maybe we will. Maybe I should be nicer to him and he'd come on. It's a little like the Boone situation, right? I feel like Brett Boone and Bob Boone have turned me down 20 times. I think because they hear me. And again, that's probably wishful thinking that they're watching the show and hearing me bash Aaron every chance I get. Rams gave the Eagles a game in the playoffs. Yeah, you know why? I think they're a better matchup, better offensive line, better defense. The defense for the Chiefs, it wasn't all their fault, man. This was more on the Chiefs' offense, right? But the Rams just had a better matchup, and I think the Chiefs couldn't have done worse. I think any of those other teams in the NFC, the Chiefs would have had a much better chance of three-peating. The Eagles were just the worst matchup they could have got. And the Eagles are now trying to add Myles Garrett to that team? Oh, wow. Yeah, we haven't had a chance to talk about Deebo Samuel going to Washington for just a third-round pick is yet another example of a salary dump for a mediocre return. We'll see how Samuel jives with McLaren. This has the potential to be a tremendous move for the Redskins. Yes, Redskins, sorry. And Jaden Daniels. And even if it's a bust, fifth-round pick, who cares? I mean, the chance of your fifth-round pick having any impact this year is certainly far less than Deebo Samuel. Now, he's got to be healthy. There's a lot of reasons. This isn't just a salary dump necessarily, although it is a salary dump. But there's a lot of reasons they can only get a fifth-round pick because the guy's not on the field enough. You can't have your best player missing, 25 to 50% of the season and coming into camp out of shape, which he did last year. Deebo Samuel's a great player. And I don't think Deebo Samuel on a team all by himself makes him that much better. But there's already some weapons on this Washington team. And I think if he does click with McLaren and certainly with Jaden Daniels, you've got something special maybe starting to build in Washington. But Samuel, listen, they got to pay him. Again, another reason, Drew, is he's only got a year left on his contract. That's another reason it's a fifth-round pick. So this wasn't a deal where they had a extension in place. And if they do, you'll hear about it soon. But I think if they did, this would not have been a fifth-round pick. It'd have been more like a third-round pick. So this is a steal for Washington. I don't even care if it works out. Even if he flames out, this is a great trade for Washington. And now San Francisco, to me, might be in full rebuild mode, including the quarterback, by the way, because they have to pay the quarterback. And Brock Purdy, God bless him, Mr. Irrelevant, played great when this team was whole. But last year, when they asked him to do more when guys were hurt, Brock Purdy's not a guy I'm giving 6 years and $50 million a year to. It'll be interesting to see what happens in San Francisco the next 2 years. Mike Ford. You haven't stumped me yet. Former Yankees prospect calling the policeman for his Dunkin' Donuts body. Mike is more laid back than an ironing board, a welcome presence and a boring mash character for any team. Mike Ford was a good clubhouse guy with the Yankees. I had a couple of moments on the field. It's got to be good. Listen, I got to tell you what. To be quite frank, right? There's a lot of guys I bash on this show. Joe Namath, as to guys as big as Joe Namath, the guys as less famous or so much less famous like Mike Ford and Ben Rice and whoever else we want to talk about. Let's be clear. When I'm bashing these guys, I also understand I couldn't do what they did ever. I could not reach the major leagues. So they did something I never did. They've done things in their lives that I will never, ever do and couldn't do. Although there's still time. I'm only going to be 65. I think I have a shot yet to maybe fill that third base hole for the Yankees. I can't play third base anymore. If you want a guy with no range, you hit the ball right at me, I can still catch it. And I got at least one throw a game in me, 2 throws a game. I'm your guy. When my brother and I will throw, I throw once a year, well, twice a year now, because some of the girls that have come into the family, Alex and Diane, are both softball players. So I get to throw the ball a lot more than I have in a long time. I used to throw once a year when my brother came into town, and my arm would hurt for a month. But I'll tell you what, for a 65-year-old guy, I can still get some juice on the ball a little bit. I can still hit. Was just in the batting cages 2 years ago down Latham. 75 mile an hour fastball. I was still knocking some line drives around, even left-handed a little bit. Problem is, I can't run. I can't move. My body would break down in 5 minutes. So that's all. That's my Walter Mitty. Is it Waldo Mitty? Walter Mitty, right? Walter Mitty moment. Bob was a great offensive lineman. I think. I don't remember where Bob went to school. Where did Bob go to school? And I know he played with the Colonials with Rick Sherlock. We talk about the Colonials. Remember, we had Gary McKillips on the 101 show here a couple of months ago, who started his career in Johnstown. Gary has done a lot of stuff with Turner Broadcasting and AP through the years, and done his own podcasting and interviews. But Gary started out on WIZR in Johnstown. We talked a lot about the Colonials a while back on the 101 show, and he talked about some of the great players and great some of the things he remembers, Rick. And I know Rick was there for that show. Niners saying they were willing to trade the recently re-signed Ayuk too. Well, if they do that, then they're in total rebuild mode. Recently re-signed Ayuk. Wasn't he hurt last year? Well, that's a stupid question, probably, because everybody in the 49ers was hurt last year at some point. If they move Ayuk, which they looked to do last year, by the way, before they re-signed him, they were trying to move him. If he's gone and your top 2 wide receivers are gone, Kittle, again, is still a really good player, not the player he was 2 and 3 years ago. This team's in a total rebuild mode, and I'm telling you, I don't know that Brock Purdy is going to get signed long-term there. I really don't. Can Cousins resurrect himself with another team, another year removed from his injury? Maybe the Giants. Look, Kirk Cousins is who he is. Kirk Cousins is now saying he was hurt most of the year, during that latter part of his year when he played so badly. But I said when Atlanta signed him, the best case scenario is you're going to win the division, win 10 or 11 games, and lose in the first round of the playoffs. Now, that'd be a step up for the Giants. If the Giants could get Kirk Cousins and win 9 games, that'd be a big deal. But who's he going to get the ball to? Neighbors is a great player, don't get me wrong. But the offensive line is porous. The running game is non-existent. This team needs a lot of help. And if they could get a bridge quarterback now, look, even if I'm drafting Cam Ward, and forget about Shadur Sanders, he would not be a good fit in New York. And if there's a candidate to drop in the draft, I'm going to say it's Shadur Sanders. Where was I going with this? And I know I see Danny Fuller coming up, so I'll probably have some. I'm not a Giant fan, so stop it. If Kirk Cousins could come in here and win 8 games with this Giant team, he'd be a savior because they're not going to win. Now, if they want to draft Cam Ward in that 3rd spot, which I still wouldn't do, I would take a project in the 2nd or 3rd round and get a bridge in there. Kirk Cousins could be a bridge. I mean, you could do worse. David Carr, Derek Carr is it would appear likely to get moved. I get a bridge in there and then either figure it out this year, maybe next year's draft will be better, or get a project. I'm not taking Cam Ward. Not that high. If Cam Ward fell to you in a 2nd round, which it won't happen, he's going to be a good player, but he's not a guy I would pick in the top 10. He's not going to be a franchise type player, at least not right away. And if you need help now and you want to win now, Brian Daboll and Joe Shine, I don't know what your answer is, man. Excuse me. Also, John Mara, excuse me, by the way. John Mara, I don't think has made it terribly clear what success is for the Giants next year. Is it 8 wins? 9 wins? No playoff? Does he need to make the playoffs? Do they need to make the playoffs? Sorry about that. Look at it. It's going to be difficult for this team. Very difficult, no matter what. But Cousins could be a potential guy. I'm starting to fall further behind here, I see. So, guys, when you put up a comment, don't just think I missed you or didn't put it up because we do tend to fall behind as I have some extended conversations. So, John saw Rodgers play every Jets home game last season. He wasn't focused, showed no interest, no emotion, no nothing. It's interesting because his numbers were, and again, also, and I watched a lot of those games. I didn't see him up close like you did, John. I'm assuming a lot of those games you saw live, or not all of them. I didn't see a guy who looked anything, and again, part of it could be, no focus, no interest, no emotion. Maybe he's just out there collecting a paycheck. Maybe he doesn't care about winning anymore. I don't know. His numbers on paper, not bad, relatively speaking. But you see the eye test? No. And I think it's telling that there seems to be a divide on that team about being upset that Rodgers is gone. I haven't heard an offensive guy speak up and say, what are we doing? But the defense has. I think it's interesting. There's Danny Fuller out in Los Angeles. How you doing, buddy? I don't know whether to say congratulations on Matthew Stafford staying on your team or not, but there it is. This is a good question for Danny. So the talk was going to be, and if I'm not mistaken, so if Stafford had moved on, they were going to look at Darnold, which I don't think would be a good fit. Maybe offensive line is better there than, say, on the Giants or some of the other teams that are going to be interested in him. Aaron Rodgers' name got bandied about. I feel like it was another name, and it's not coming to me right now. Would you rather have had a new face? I know you don't want Aaron Rodgers there, but would you rather have had a new face in LA, or you're happy with your Super Bowl winning quarterback coming back at 37 years old? There's no I don't think there's any word on what the contract extension is, but I'm thinking you could have got more somewhere else. Danny's up and awake. According to the legendary Danny Fuller. You threw in Caprillion for me since he was such a high spot. Yeah, I know. We had a lot of guys like that, by the way. We traded some really good prospects, but we also traded a lot of really bad ones and probably hang on to a lot of really bad ones for too long. Appreciate you throwing him in. That's why I moved on quickly, because I didn't want to get into the Yankee prospect conversation. And of course, Drew did not say Yankees. He gave the old Yank me's. So the nicknames on this show are just wonderful. And there's another one, the Stankies. Still the team in the East. They probably are. There's a lot of. Listen, Danny, you know me. I'm not. Don't look at my team with rose-colored glasses. I'm a very. Again, I always want to be wrong. To be clear, I'm a little worried. There's a big hole at third base. DJ's hurt. Played one game and he's hurt. Stanton hasn't even been able to participate, and we don't know when he can. JD Martinez might be brought in. I don't know where they can go to find infield help at this point, and it might have to be Cabrera or Peraza at either second or third. I feel like they want Jazz to play second, and that could only be because DJ can't play second. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. They got to fill that DH spot either with a Ben Rice and maybe a righty complement, or JD Martinez, or maybe he's a righty complement to Ben Rice. I don't know. Speaking of the Yankees, there's a big Yankee fan up in Amsterdam, New York, Dave Guyette, same place Bob Noto chimed in from earlier. Always appreciate you guys popping in. Please continue to do so. Great local story. Jeff Hoffman, Latham product. Went to Colony, I think, right? Didn't he go to Colony High School? We had this conversation before. I thought he went to Colony. But Colony is like one of those cities or towns, whatever. I guess it's a town. It just seems that, you're in Colony, you drive into Latham, you're back in Colony, then you're in something else, then you're in Colony again. It's a weird little town. Anyway, he did pitch in Colorado, and since he is a bad starter, then successfully converted to relief with the Phillies. I think he pitched in relief with Colorado, to be fair, at least the tail end of his time there. But he did pitch well with the Phillies for the most part last year. I think the end of the year he kind of fell back a little bit, but he did get himself signed as the Blue Jays closer. I wish Jeff well. And I've watched him pitch a lot, and he definitely belongs as a reliever. Whether a closer is the spot for him, we'll find out, because he doesn't quite have the pitch selection in my mind that some others have to be a starter. So good luck to him. I'll root for him whenever it doesn't affect the Yankees. Chris says he thinks Hoffman originally a Blue Jay prospect, is the last man standing for a massive Troy Tulowitzki trade with Colorado. That's a great point. Let's take a quick look at that trade, Chris, if I can get there. Hold on. Troy Tulowitzki Rocky trade. Trying to type and talk same time. Come on, give me the whole trade, would you please? I want the whole thing. Here we go. Major League Baseball. So the trade was, come on, Jeff Hoffman, Miguel Castro, and Jesus Tanako, who I don't think is there. They also got LaTroy Hawkins in that trade, by the way. And it looks like I'm frozen again. Let me know if you heard me through all that. Darn it. All right, we're back. Sorry. I know when I've frozen in the past, people have said they heard me. So hopefully you guys heard that. I was going through the Troy Tulowitzki trade. They had gotten Hoffman. He was number 4 prospect in their system at the time. Castro and Miguel Castro and Jesus Tanico. Castro might have been around a while. I do think you may be right that Hoffman is the last guy standing, and it's good to see him do well. I don't know whether he's going to be great. What time is movie hour? I saw The Brutalist last evening, and I mean evening. I'm not sure what that means. I have not seen The Brutalist. I will give you a show to watch though. On Netflix, we're watching. What happened here? Seems like I'm gone from. Geez, now I'm gone from. Hang on one second. I got to try to get back on Roku. Oh man, we're live. It says we're live. Oh, that's X. Oh, I got to put myself back in. Sorry, that's X. Let me put myself back on the Roku. Maybe somebody bumped me. I don't know. We're going back on though. This is my 2 hours, not somebody else's. All right. Well, Linda, if you're watching, I'm having trouble on Roku. This is like the third time recently. It just stopped sharing in the middle of the show, so I don't know. It kind of fixed itself last time, so I'm just going to let it be for now. You can let me know if I need to do something. Anyway, Netflix, we started watching. It's only six episodes. A couple of shows, by the way. On Apple. Is it Apple? I apologize if it's not Apple. Oh, it's Peacock. I think it's Peacock. I'm sorry. Paradise. Oh, my God. Sterling K. Brown, who was in This Is Us. Great. He's a really good actor. Just a great show if you like that type of thing. And we also started Zero Day with Robert De Niro, who's not one of my favorite. But this shows you where I can usually separate. I mean, I certainly don't agree with Robert De Niro's politics or his view on a lot of things, but he's a great actor. And he's really good in this Zero Day. If you haven't watched it, check it out. We've got 2 episodes to go. We'll probably finish up later on today at some point. I don't know The Brutalist, though. Actually, Chris, there's Reyes? Jose Reyes? I don't have Jose Reyes in that trade. Oh, sorry, shortstop Jose Reyes, very first line. That's not the Mets Jose Reyes. I take it. I don't remember him. Let me just check this out. Is he really playing still? And he was in that trade? He's not playing anymore, is he? Yeah, I don't have him playing since 2018, Drew, if you're saying that. Let me see. Maybe you're not saying that. Hoffman, Miguel Castro. Castro's in the minors with Houston and Tanico. Oh, Tanico, whatever his name is. Sorry, I started reading that. I should have read the whole goddamn thing. I thought you were telling me Jose Reyes was still playing. I was like, whoa, I'm going to pick him. So I would still say Hoffman made out better than anybody else in that trade. You don't have your back to the field, John? Good question, actually, John. I think John's part of security might be keeping the players from going into the fields. He's protecting the fans. No, I don't know where John is positioned or what his actual deal is. He could be protecting the locker room for all I know. So. And I think John, if I'm not mistaken, you do all the events, do you not? I hope you're still here, John, at MetLife. Concerts, which is the only thing I go to MetLife for these days, but usually once a year we get down there to a Kenny Chesney concert or something else. By the way, Blake Shelton at the MVP or whatever we call the arena these days. Is that what we call the TU, the Knickerbocker? Is it MVP still, or is it changed to something else? Be there next Saturday with Blake Shelton. Can't wait. And now I'm out of topics, or we're out of comments. That's unbelievable at 9:34. We got some other stuff we can talk about, though, guys. NHL or NFL, we haven't talked about Kelsey unretiring. Are the Chiefs done? Do we think the Chiefs are done? I don't. I think a little retooling. I think Rice coming back healthy next year will be a big deal and focused, hopefully. I think Kelsey needs to drop a few pounds and get focused, right? I mean, we know the Jets famously, before they cut Rodgers, if he did come back, they were going to make him cut down on all the outside stuff outside of practice and football. I would think the Chiefs will say the same thing to Kelsey. Rededicate yourself to football. He's another guy. The numbers on paper look pretty good. 97 catches. That's not awful for your tight end. He needs help. And he needs to be in better shape and more focused on the football field. I'm going to say, I personally think that Travis Kelce was distracted during that Super Bowl, and I wonder if it had to do with his girlfriend being booed. We didn't talk about the first down measurement being made through technology going forward. I forget what the name of this thing is. I think I had it up here. Where is it? I guess I don't. I guess it's not. Thought it was here. I lost it now. There's a name for the thing. And listen, I'm tired of technology in sports. I really am. I'm done. I mean, started with instant replay. We bastardize that to be something that's not, especially in baseball. It's freaking ridiculous that now I'm calling guys out because their foot came, a centimeter off the base. I'm done. I'm absolutely done. And now you're going to introduce more of it. And I agree with Max Scherzer on the IBS in baseball. So we got IBS being tested and maybe put into use. Am I still alive? I'm sorry. And maybe being put to use in 2026. And guys like Max Scherzer say, can we just be humans being judged by humans? Is there anything wrong with that? Now, I understand for years, we've measured inches in football, right? And is it the chains or is it throwing the football all over the place? How is that going to change with an electronic measurement? I'm okay with a little bit of human error. I don't know why everybody else isn't. Ugh. It's just me. Rodgers. What about Darnold? Where do you think John had him going to the Giants? Where do the rest of us have him going? I hope I'm not missing comments because something seems a little off on the comment section. So if you guys are commenting and I'm not seeing it, please do me a favor and send me a instant message on my Facebook page through Messenger, just in case. I want to see. All of a sudden, comments stopped, which is kind of weird at 9:23, 15 minutes ago. This is very odd. If I'm not seeing comments, please let me know. No, there's a comment. So maybe we're okay. Always fun to see how Major League prospects do in spring training. Down two of the Red Sox big ones are hitting well. Marcelo Mayer and Roman Ant. Oh, Jesus Christ. Wow. That was a major case of dyslexia or a minor stroke. I don't know which. Marcelo Mayer, Roman Anthony, Robert Hassel of the Nationals as well. The first two guys are the Red Sox. Robert Hassel of the Nationals as well. And again, Drew, I know I talk about the exhibition season not being that excited. I don't sit and watch entire games. I'll watch the Yankees as we get later. Are you kidding me? Am I frozen again? StreamYard, we're going to have a conversation here. Let me just take myself out and see what happens. Can't do it. There we go. Sorry about that. I don't know how long I was frozen. Guys, tell me again. I don't remember. When I'm freezing, I know some of you don't see me freeze for some reason. Drew said I did the other day. Do you still hear the audio? Just so I know going forward. Ugh, that's twice I froze. Usually it's once a show now. This has got to be a StreamYard issue. Or am I on airplane mode somehow? What the hell is this? Why am I on airplane? Maybe that's got something to do with it. Somehow my computer's on airplane mode. We got to have freaking gremlins here or something. But if I'm airplane mode, how am I broadcasting at all? I don't know. Human error. As I tell my people at work, right? They're constantly talking about issues with our technology. And thank you, Drew, for finding that Naira bid the other day, because no, I don't have a Ferris wheel for them, but I may go up and ride it. Why we need a Ferris wheel at the Saratoga racetrack, I don't know, that you and I will likely pay for. I don't know how much taxpayer money goes out to Naira, by the way. I have no clue. But we do part of what all of what our company does is really host RFPs for government agencies, and Drew brought the Naira one for Ferris wheel to my attention. Don't blame me for the bids we put up. I guarantee if I gave you guys access, again, I'll just throw this out there for what it's worth. There's a lot of talk about government waste and some of the things that are happening. I would tell you what, if you don't think there's government waste, let me give you access to our system just for a day, and you do some searching around and look at some of the awards. You don't look at the bid. Well, you can look at the bids, I guess. But look at the awards, and you'd be mortified at the waste of government around this entire country on the state, federal, and local levels. Anyway, just don't bite the hand that feeds you, right? It's only feeding me for another 178 days. Oh, sorry. Anyway, you want to bring up that Naira topic, Drew? I'm happy to talk about it. I don't know. Where'd you come across that? And Drew may have finally figured out what my company does. Most people don't understand what we do. Anyway, where was I? Thinking back to the Vikings, lots of weapons that other teams don't have. Not enough coffee. The Vikings definitely, listen, this is a well-coached team. You've got two great wide receivers. I think your tight end situation is pretty good. Question is going to be what you do at quarterback. I'm bringing Darnold back. Now, he may not get as much money as he could get somewhere else, but if I'm Sam Darnold and I want to succeed, I'm staying here. Maybe Darnold continues to get better. I don't know. I don't think he will, Rick, quite frankly. I think J.J. McCarthy's going to be the quarterback there at some point. Doesn't have to be next year, though. And maybe it is later in the season, and maybe you're only signing Darnold for 2 years. Is he going to take that when he can get 5 years somewhere else? But I think the market for Sam Darnold at, say, 5 years and $250 million is not out there, by the way. Even $200 million, I don't think is out there. Vikings could do worse than bring him back. 2 years. If JJ's ready to play at some point next year, well, then you play him. Question is whether Darnold wants to do that. He's a great fit in that system. I do not know how well he will do anywhere else. Because, quite frankly, he hasn't played that well anywhere else. Yeah, he had a couple of games in San Francisco. That's not enough of a track record for me to worry about. He didn't play well in Carolina, but they weren't very good. And he was horrendous with the Jets, which is I don't think he's coming back to New York. Whoops. Drew says, I'm frozen again, but the audio stays on. Okay, good. I thought somebody told me that the other day. I'll remember that going forward so I don't panic. Because what I can do, I think now, rather than refresh, and it takes me a little bit longer to get back, it doesn't let me remove myself right away. But then if I kind of just talk for a couple of seconds, it'll pop me out. Then I come back in and I'm unfroze. Maybe me having the frickin' airplane mode on had something to do with it. I brought my button home. I don't know if you can hear that, but I probably shouldn't play it on the air too often. You may hear it now and again, though. Maybe when the Mad New Yorker comes on. I brought my BS button from work. I can't believe I didn't have an HR issue in my 23 years at this company. I had my bullshit. I'll just put it up here. This is my bullshit button. So there were certain guys that would come in my office and they'd go on and I just hit the button. I had other guys that come in upset about everything under the world, and I'd hand them my hurt feelings report that I found one time. It was hilarious. The questions are hilarious. I don't think I brought it home. I think I tossed it. Oh, God. When did you first start feeling offended? At what point did you have to crawl up in a fetal position in your cube? It's amazing. I was never an HR issue. It's my stanky sock freezing you. It's a conspiracy to shut me up. Thank you, Danny. You're the best. Pay the bills for non-freezing. Listen, every time I do this, I do a speed test, and the speed test is off the frickin' charts. I mean, I pay a bundle for frickin' internet speed, and the upload speed is like, I don't know. Here's a download. Upload's the one that's fast, right? It's like 500, 600. It's amazing. But unfortunately, what really plays into the streaming here is the download, which is still good. It's still in the 20s. But before I boosted this when I moved here, it was like 8 or 9. No, I shouldn't say that. Probably 12. But now we're in the 20s all the time. So I think it's StreamYard or the fact that your dumbass host has had his computer on airplane mode since I don't know when. Which I don't understand, because I thought when you're on airplane mode, I wouldn't be able to connect to the internet. Again, I'm a technology. I learned all my technology knowledge is self-taught. That's probably the problem. Everyone's talking about the Dodgers starters for obvious best that money can buy reasons, but the Rays have McClanahan, we talked about coming back, Drew Rasmussen coming back, Zach Littell, Ryan, I can't say his name, Piapoit, I'll say, but I like Taj Bailey a lot, and Shane Baz. They've got young starters coming out of every freaking orifice in that organization. Now, some of those, there's some guys with something to prove. McClanahan and Rasmussen coming off of major surgery. So I think there's more, but the Dodgers rotation has some question marks as well, right? We don't know what Ohtani's going to have left. We don't, after a year off. Yamamoto got hurt last year, pitched really well, I think, when he was healthy. Flaherty's gone. Kershaw, who knows what he has left. But I love Glasnow. Of course, you got, who am I missing? Snell. I'm not a big fan. Is it Snell? Yeah, Snell. What do you think? And Danny, I don't know that you were on the show Friday. And again, this isn't necessarily a shot at the Dodgers necessarily, because the Yankees have done the same thing through the years. You know, they're on a bit of an austerity budget for them, but $300 million a year isn't really an austerity budget. I personally think that, and it won't happen, because if they do, we're going to have a strike if they try to push this through. I think baseball needs a hard cap. Forget about luxury taxes. I think they need a hard cap, similar to football. And again, I'm usually a free trade guy, right? So if I buy the Dodgers or I buy the Yankees, well, then I've got more resources at my disposal than the Royals and the Cleveland Indians or Rockies. And at the same time, if these smaller market teams aren't going to use their revenue sharing to improve their teams, I really don't have a lot of sympathy for them. But I think with what we've seen here in the last couple of years, I think a hard cap is something that has to be considered, but it'll never happen because the Players Association never go for it. If a hard cap comes up and the owners want to stick by it, we're going to have a strike in 2 years, I would say. And I'm not even sold on the fact that I want it, quite frankly, because I've always been, I'm a capitalist. I'm a free trade guy. You buy the Yankees, you buy the Dodgers, you just have more resources at your disposal than the Royals. When it came to revenue sharing, George Steinbrenner always said, I bought the Yankees. If I wanted to buy the Kansas City Royals, I would have bought the Kansas City Royals. Which is kind of odd because he wanted the Yankees before he ever bought the Yankees. It'll be interesting. I'm going to get Jenny Paul on pretty soon. She's going to have some interesting stories about the George Steinbrenner, Gabe Paul, Billy Martin, relationships, how George actually got to New York. Interesting stuff. I just finished her book, Yankee Princess. It's really a good read. Never considered there was an airplane mode for computers. Does it have wings as well? No, it's jet. It's all like a missile. There is an airplane mode for everything that's got electronics. Drew, come on, you know these things. I have the wings. It's all good. Your Dodger blue and white looks great. I was going to wear a Red Raider. Yes, Red Raider, Perth Red Raiders. We were very politically incorrect back in the day. My Perth Red Raider are red and white, but decided not to today. I know Danny doesn't like the red. I like the red. Pepio. Well, Pepio. French. You do pardon me for that all the time. Oh, no, I pardon myself. Pardon my French. It's not for Pepio, though. It's usually for, I might have to play this. I might have to use my bullshit button a lot. Excuse my French. I've missed it. I didn't realize I was in the office and a lot the last couple of weeks. When I got back from vacation, we had some workshops with my boss who's in from Utah and my staff, and we informed of my retirement. And we had a lot of workshops because a lot of things are changing rapidly within our company, process-wise and things like that. So I was in the office a lot the last couple of weeks, and I went down Thursday. I had to do some things, and I decided, because we're closing that office in June or July, and I'm leaving in August, so I decided to clean my office out. And I brought some of my toys home, and I realized how much I missed them. Baseball needs a cap. Oh, you agree? I agree 100%. And the problem, Danny, I wish I could find my other complaint button. I was going to show you one of the other things I have, but I don't want to ruin my backdrop here. So Danny agrees with his Dodgers outspending money like drunken sailors. We need a cap. I hate to see us go to a cap because, again, I'm a free trade guy, but I just don't see how baseball is going to survive. I'm not even sure how the teams can, and maybe it protects them from themselves because we have yet to see. I know the Dodgers are swimming in money, right? But what happens when, they call in these payments of $1.3 million? We may need it to protect teams from themselves, not just the teams that don't have the money to do it. I don't know. Injuries, the ultimate leveler for sports teams, Danny, for sure. But it doesn't level the playing field. It doesn't level the playing field like people having the same amount of money to spend. And I'm not saying that should be the case, because you could make the cap $300 million, right? Which is not going to be a small cap. And the Royals and the Marlins are never going to spend that. What are they spending now? What's their salary cap? What's their total salary right now, Drew? $30 million? It's probably more than that. But there have been years recently when the cap was, 200 some, the luxury tax cap, where the Marlins have been at like $18 million. Let's see if I can find it quickly. 2025 salary payroll, their payroll is $47 million. $47 million. What are the Dodgers at? Almost, 370? Almost 400? Yankees are trying to hold it 300. $47 million. Now, that's on them. And again, this is why I'm not necessarily a big fan. I find myself on both sides of this issue, which I don't often do. By the way, of that $47 million, Sandy Alcantara, another comeback guy this year, is getting $17 million of it. And they were higher. They were $96 million last year. 2023, 105. That's a lot for them. This is as low it's been since 2021. Let me look at their history here. Baseball Reference going to give me their history. Nah, that's not going to give me what I thought it would. Anyway, I don't know. I'm not really sure the answer here. I think Seattle. I love Seattle's staff, and I've said that a lot on the MLB Network. I'm not sure they can get enough runs to win 90 games right now, Danny. Somebody's got to step up, or they need to make another trade. Because have they done anything to improve that? Have they done anything to improve that? Where's my that offense this offseason? I can't think of anything. Let me look at their depth chart. Cal Raleigh, a catcher still. Luke Raley, Dylan Moore, Crawford, Polanco, Rosarina, J-Rod, Robles. This looks like the team I saw last year. I think Robles was there last year, wasn't he? I'm not sure this team can win 85 games with that offense. Great pitching. Great point. And I'm glad you brought it up because, Castillo, one of the most sought-after pitchers, George Kirby, Logan Gilbert, Bryce Miller. That's as good as any four in baseball. There's Kenny. Through the wings. Better check it. That's a problem. This airplane mode on my computer has no pilot at all. How you doing, Kenny? Hope you're doing all right up there in the mountain. I bet you the wind chill was a bit cold this morning. Maybe tomorrow morning too. I don't know if our wind advisory has gone down yet or not. But I hope you're staying warm up there on the mountain, Kenny. Drew agreed on the injury reports and how you adjust. Yeah, but again, depth, by the way, injuries is a great leveler, right? But again, if you have more resources, you also have better depth and you have ways to fill holes. So, and everybody's going to have injuries. The haves and have-nots are both going to have injuries. If you stay healthy, I think the Royals, I want to say the Royals and the Tigers of two of the smaller market teams. I don't know if we should call Detroit a small market, but I think by definition today it is. Feel free to correct me. I mean, relatively speaking, I want to say those two teams stayed fairly injury-free. But look at the teams they're chasing. I mean, that whole division is full of smaller market teams, smaller payroll teams. The Indians isn't that big. The Royals, the Tigers, White Sox, they probably they may have had the highest payroll in the division. See where it got them, or at least they have over time. They're probably the team with the most resources. And the Twins. All these teams tend to work on fairly austerity-like budgets. Redskins just gave that. Redskins just gave that. We talked about this earlier. Yes, Kenny. Debo. Now again, he's got to stay healthy. He needs to get into camp and shape, which he didn't last year. And the reason it was a 5th-round pick is because he's injured. 60% of the time, it would seem. But healthy, this guy is a tremendous weapon. And giving up a 5th-rounder, it's like nothing. In my mind, you risk nothing, especially since his contract's done this year. I think he's only getting paid $17 million this year. So if he flames out, what's Washington lost? Nothing. Chances are pretty high their 5th-round pick would not have been that good anyway. So I think it's a great, great move. And for Jaden Daniels in that entire organization. And they may be building something special up there. We'll see. Samuel has got to play well. Samuel has got to play well. And if he does, then they've got to re-sign him, which they're going to pay a lot more than $17 million. Mariners' big additions were Donovan Solano. Nice. I'm pretty sure I can out-hit Donovan Solano. Feliz, Gott, Fujinami, Rowdy Tellez. Now, he's got a bit more power and pop than I have these days, but I'll bet you I can put the bat, well, not at 100. At 75, I can put the bat on the ball as often as Rudy Tellez. They better. J-Rod was one of the big disappointments, and they need him to carry this offense next year. And Polanco as well. I kind of like Polanco. I always have. They could use a bounce back from Randy Rosarina. I mean, you're not going to get much out of Robles. You got Haniger back on that team and the bench. There's just not there. I mean, Polanco's got more upside, I think, than he's shown. Maybe J.P. Crawford, maybe a Rosarina, and J-Rod. We know what he looks like when he's good. Oh, without a doubt, it's a steal no matter what, Danny. Because if it doesn't, like I said, if he flames out, if he's hurt for the whole year, a 5th-round draft pick, chances are your 5th-round draft pick wasn't going to help you anyway. I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible that it wouldn't, but it's not that big a gamble. And if the only big, so now to me, this is a big year now for the Redskins to maybe win, because they may not be able to keep Debo if he's healthy and he plays well. This team's going to be really good, and he's going to demand a big contract. So I'm not sure where that will stand. Well, I'm glad you popped in, buddy. Take your meds. Are those your homegrown meds? Or I hope you're doing well, my friend, and stay warm up there in the mountains. Say hi to your wife. We haven't seen you as much, and we miss you. So stick around and stay warm up there, man. Throw a log on the fire. At least it makes sense when it opens up its mouth. What? When the I'll read between the lines, my friend. Might be me. I think I know where we're going there. What time we got? 10:04. Another show. Sunday Stream of Consciousness. Another show to watch. And I haven't watched a new season yet. We watched a couple years ago. We watched American Rust. I don't know what's on. Might be on HBO. I think it is on HBO. American Rust with Jeff Daniels and Maura Tierney. She used to be on the ER years ago. The first season was absolutely fabulous, and there's a new season that I missed somehow in like November because I can't watch everything that's out there. Couple of recommendations there though: 0 Day, Paradise, American Rust. I think we talked about No Good Deed. If you haven't watched it, watch it. Really good. 1923 started last week. If you're a Yellowstone fan, it's a really good prequel with Harrison Ford. Great cast. Helen Mirren. What else is out there we're watching? Haven't watched Severance yet. Second season of Severance is out there. That's an Apple TV show. Oh, and Reacher is back on Prime. So first season was great. This Jack Reacher is really much truer to the books. If you've read Jack Reacher, you know what I'm talking about. Great. I love the Jack Reacher series. Can't think of the author right now. But they turned it into a couple movies with Tom Cruise, and they were good enough, right? But Tom Cruise was nothing like the Jack Reacher creature character in the novels. It's really good. So anyway, back to Mariners starters are excellent, but I think Castillo is sliding on the downside. Not up to standards that Logan Gilbert, George Kirby, Bryce Miller, and Brian who I didn't mention, set. Brian Woo. He's still a leader of that staff, though. I would argue Kirby or maybe Gilbert. I like Kirby. Of the young guys, I like Kirby the best. I don't know why. Gilbert's really good, too. They're all good. I mean, if I could build my whole fantasy team around this staff, I would do it. But I'm not sure about their bullpen situation and holding some leads, too. But they got to score runs, so you get no wins. Shrinking, awesome. Great point. Drew, I think there's been 2 seasons, I think, right? Jason Segel, Harrison Ford. It's my wife is tearing down the ceiling. Jason Segel, Harrison Ford. I would call it a dramedy, right? It is very funny though. Well written. It's really a good show. Great one. That's what I hadn't seen. I've been wanting to watch for a while, and we binged the first 2 seasons, and I think there'll be a third. I think there's only 2 seasons. Really good stuff. Good point, Drew. I think your flying computer you heard that, right? So you can hear everything that goes on here, so you must be able to hear the bullshit button, too. Where are we? 10:08. What am I missing? Not the audience to talk about NCAA basketball, I'm guessing, because, again, they're talking about 2 things. I guess both playoffs, both tournaments. They were called a playoff in football. It's a tournament in basketball, but basketball is talking about going to 72 from 68 or 76. It's getting to be too many teams. And these teams that are arguing that are on the bubble that are going to get pissed, stop. I talked about this forever. I'm tired of reading about, and again, I know it matters, but everything we read is about metrics. I can't get over the fact that I got to let a home team or a team get in with a 4-12 record in conference. Oklahoma still on the bubble. Georgia with another nice win yesterday, by the way. Duke rolled. Big winners yesterday. Duke. Florida. Tennessee beats Alabama. Big win for them. Tennessee's got a really good team, well coached. Again, can't put the ball in the hoop enough. Iowa State wins big. Clemson really hot, playing well. Vanderbilt with a big win over Missouri. Marquette trying to get back on track. We talked about St. John's and their first win of a Big East title since 1985. Rick Pitino doing great work there. Washington State with a big win. St. Mary's with a nice win. Gonzaga, believe it or not, still an outside chance they don't get in the tournament. They beat San Francisco yesterday. They'll probably get in unless they flame out in the first round of their conference tournament. UConn, I like as a dark horse if they can get in. Villanova with a nice win, still on the bubble. Indiana on the bubble. Tennessee on the bubble. Baylor on the bubble. All big wins. Kentucky loses again. They'll get in. Arkansas had done a great job of fixing their defensive problems. John Calipari's done a great job. Bad loss yesterday to they won one game, South Carolina in conference, and Arkansas loses to them yesterday. Another team, though, Arkansas, with a losing record in conference. Nebraska, who was on the bubble, probably in, now maybe out, lost to Minnesota. Utah State, Colorado State. I think the Mountain West is going to get 3 or 4 teams in. And SMU loses to Stanford. A lot of these teams, no top 50 wins. That's their problem. But I want to hear more of these mid-majors with good conference records and overall records getting in a tournament. Don't expand this thing to 76 just so I can have more Big Ten teams in, more SEC teams in. They may get 14 teams, the SEC. The record's 11. And I don't want to see Oklahoma and Arkansas get in over a second-place Missouri Valley team that's not bad. Or Drake, if they lose the Missouri Valley Conference tournament, doesn't get in because one of these teams with a 7 or 8 games under 500, 6, 7, 8 games under 500 in conference. Listen, this St. John's team is built to go deep in the tournament, John. I think if they win the Big East tournament, I think they've got a great shot, especially with Alabama losing yesterday. I think St. John's got a great shot to be a number 1 seed, 2 at worst, of course. They're 7th, I think, in the country right now. They win out and they win the Big East tournament, which would be the first time they've done that since 1985 as well. Frozen again, so it's not the airplane thing. Good frickin' grief. Ugh. Yeah, I just don't know what goes on there. I got to talk to StreamYard and see what the deal is. It's certainly not my feed. Anyway, St. John's, they go to Final Four. They haven't been to a Final Four since 1985. Only trip to the Final Four for St. John's in their history. Rick Pitino, you can say what you want. He's going to take his 6th team, which is a record, to the NCAA tournament. His 5th team now has won a season, conference season, regular season championship. Also a record. He's a great coach. John's a UCLA guy. I grew up a Marquette fan because I was a big Al McGuire fan. I got to interview a couple of my childhood heroes, if you will, from watching Marquette play on my 101 show. Lloyd Walton and Butch Lee, both great guards on those Al McGuire teams. Butch Lee played for the 77 national championship team. 2 of my favorite interviews. But UCLA's got a great, and listen, Mitch Cronin, I'm surprised. UCLA was ranked higher. They were ranked like 10, number 10 earlier in the season. They had a mid-season slump. They're playing pretty good basketball. They're going to get in a tournament. The Big Ten's also going to get 10 teams in, probably, maybe 11. So you're going to have a third of the teams in the tournament come from the SEC and the Big Ten. But Mitch Cronin, I think, has done a decent job there. I know that Danny Fuller's not a big fan of Mitch Cronin, but I don't know how much better you're going to do than Mitch Cronin right now. There aren't big-name coaches lining up to go to UCLA to coach. By the way, I saw a big. I was watching something on YouTube, and I wish I could. I probably should have saved the URL so I could post it for you basketball fans. It was kind of what if, like John Wooden was offered a Minnesota job before he went to UCLA. Then Minnesota dragged their feet, and UCLA made an offer that he accepted. Then Minnesota came back, and his wife wanted to stay in the Midwest or even upper Midwest, and they're from Indiana, as you may know. And he felt he couldn't go back on his word to UCLA. How different would history have been? Coach K was up for the Iowa State job before Johnny Orr, who was a more veteran coach and winning coach at Michigan, just had taken a team to a Final Four, a final actually against Indiana a few years before. Took the job at Iowa State. Coach K likely would have gone to Iowa State over Duke because Duke was down at the time. There was several stories like this. Denny Crum turning down the UCLA job twice after John Wooden had retired, and he stayed at Louisville. Right now, Duke is the best team and the team to beat. I mean, they've lost one game since November, and that was to a red-hot Clemson team on the road, I believe. Clemson's playing really good basketball, by the way. There's a sleeper to watch out for in the tournament. St. Mary's is a sleeper to watch out for in the tournament, and I'll give you UConn. I may bet UConn in the future just because it's going to be a really good value. 8,000 on 100. I might take a shot. Or I may take a shot at, you bet Duke and your return's not going to be that great. But Duke's playing great basketball. John Shire doing a great job. Has done a pretty good job replacing Coach K. It's never easy. We talk about this all the time. Pros, college, it's never easy to be the guy who replaces the guy. John Shire has taken him a couple of years to really get his feet under him, but even in those years, they were competitive, and he's done a great job there. Cooper Flagg is probably the best player in the country. There you go. Cooper Flagg is a real deal. Banged up a little bit now, but unless he gets seriously hurt, this team will make a deep run in the tournament. It'll be a huge upset in my mind if this team doesn't make it to the Final Four. I've always liked Calipari. I've always thought he got a bit of a bad rep. He's done okay at Arkansas. This team was horrible defensively early in the year. And now they've got, with some of the metrics, which I won't get into necessarily, they were one of the worst teams in the country defensively and these defensive metrics. And since like the beginning of February, they're like the fifth best team in the country with these defensive metrics. So Danny loves Chattanooga State. That's not the Musketeer. Who are the ones? Tennessee Chattanooga was a team that had a couple upset wins in the 80s. I hope this doesn't happen during our Major League Baseball progress, our podcast, or my voice of God issue is bad enough. I'm not sure it's been happening in the last 3 weeks. I think since I got home from vacation. I don't know. Maybe it's a bug I brought home with me. I did reboot my own equipment. I do speed tests. They're all good. So I got to believe it's a glitch with StreamYard, but we'll find out. And again, it's not a huge deal. It's like turn this around in 10 seconds. What do we got left? About 10 minutes. Cubs, Rangers, and Mets. I know Steve Cohen's all in on the Mets, man, but they still got some issues. They've added the most new faces to their teams over the offseason, 21 for each. That's huge. Includes players with notable years of Major League experience, signed to Major League contracts with invitations to spring training. And I would say, look at I think Montoya in New York is going to have some pressure on him this year because Steve Cohen has spent a lot of money on Soto, obviously. The pitching staff is still a bit, again, you're putting a lot of faith in Senga bouncing back and being the Senga he was before he got hurt. You're counting on Minaya to duplicate last year's success, which I'm not sure that you can do. They still got some holes at second base. They got some questions. We need Alvarez they need Alvarez to bounce back. I think the Cubs may have the most pressure of anybody. Craig Counsell, the highest paid manager in baseball. Hoyer, a bit under the gun as a GM, and they've made some significant moves this year too. And they've got the Kyle Tucker. Justin Tucker. That's a totally another story. We haven't even touched on in this show. They got Kyle Tucker, who will be a free agent after the season. So no guarantee he stays there. It's win now for Cubs. And the Rangers, I still tell you, I know Alan's not here, and I'll say this on our preview show, Drew. And I'll set up a date this week for that, by the way. This team doesn't have enough pitching. I don't think they got the right veteran leadership on it. Well, I shouldn't say that. If Seager's healthy, he definitely contributes. Simeon, I like. But the kids have got to step up. The kids didn't step up last year. Right? Carter, Langford. I don't love the pitching staff. I know, I don't know for a fact till we talk, I guess, about it on the show, Drew, that you think DeGrom will bounce back. I'm not confident he will. The evidence is there enough for me over the last 5 years, 6 years. He'll break down. 5 years. He'll break down. I have no reason to think he won't break down. So, anyways, there's some, and again, but you got maybe the best manager in baseball there. The Flying Rebels out of UNLV make any more of a step forward this year. I don't think UNLV is going to make the tournament, quite frankly, out of Mountain West. Let me just take a look real quick at the standings, because I think this team gets 3 teams in. Let me scroll down to the Mountain West here real quick. Utah State will get in. New Mexico's getting in. Great job by Richard Pitino this year. They faded in the past, and this year they're not fading. They're 23-6, 15-3 in a conference. Colorado State, I think, solidified their bid yesterday with a win over Utah State. And I think if they get a 4th seed, it's going to be a 5th pick. It's going to be either San Diego State or Boise State. Vegas sits right behind them. They're only 16-13 overall, and I think this team is going to be on the outside looking in and going to the NIT if they just choose to do so. Quite frankly, I think this league deserves 5 bids. I think they'll do well to get 5. There's Scott Kobe with his late entry. Good morning, Scott. How are you doing? What a shuffleboard championship at the home yesterday. Congrats on your win. It was hard fought, man. And I got to tell you, I was exhausted at the end of it. I went home and went right to bed after some Jell-O. I went to my room, went right to bed. 6 division winners in baseball this year should be the Yanks, Royals, Rangers, Braves, Cubs, and Dodgers. Well, we only got 5 minutes to discuss this. Make sure you show up, Scott, to our MLB preview, because I do want you to be able to comment. I'll make sure it gets posted and you get the times. It'll likely be middle of the month on a Tuesday, 7 p.m. Not sure if that's past your bedtime these days at the home. But let me I'll give you my picture on it right now. I don't know if I'll stick with this right now, but I'm going to do this very unscientifically. I can't even get there, can I? I'm going to say Yankees. I'm going to say Tigers. I'm going to say Seattle because I think they're going to find enough offense. I'll say the Braves. Oh, Pirates, really? I'm going to say Cincinnati and the Dodgers. But that could change by the time we do it. I'm just doing it off the top of my head. Yeah, UNLV's definitely out. Unfortunately, Chris, I'm sorry. I know Utah State is good, but it was a very, well, they were never in the game. It's not like they played a bad team. Colorado State is going to the tournament as well. Utah State's fallen out of the rankings, but they had a really good start to the season. Problem is these teams can't get a lot of games outside of their conference that give them. That's why I don't want to look at these, Ken Palms and whatever other metric systems you want to look at. I do care about conference record a lot. What's wrong with shuffleboard grief? It's a kind of a joke about the home and roll. I actually have several real shuffleboard champions from my time at the Bigelow Weavers, where we used to play for lots of money at one time when I was much younger. I was president there for like 12 years and haven't been there. Now I hardly go there. I don't think I've been there in 2 years. Yeah, absolutely. Please come in. We want your comments that night. Jack was his partner in scuffleboard. No, this was a singles match. Jack was playing. Jack plays goalie on the shuffleboard team. Yeah, I did mine real quick, Drew. I don't even know if they'll be my picks at the end of the day. I was just looking real quick, thinking of teams in the divisions. So if I'm just going to disagree, I'm probably disagreeing with, which is why we want them there. Yankees I agree with, Royals I don't, Rangers I don't, Braves I do, Cubs I'm not sure yet. I'm probably have to right now, maybe a little more. Anyway, guys, it's been a good morning. I appreciate all of your comments and participation. We appreciate all of your support, and thank you to the groups like John Gonzalez Sports Authorities, who John spent some time with us this morning. We'll be sharing this show to a bunch of groups here later on today, and we appreciate them and their support as well. So, guys, have a great weekend. We'll have some announcement, hopefully, about a one-on-one interview coming Friday, and then we'll be booking out for March and April. Friday, the last Friday of every month, though, will be the Sound Off show, and also include Jim Behringer giving us a hockey update. So make sure you tune in on Fridays, and you can come in to the show, Chris F. Grave, and rant for 5 minutes. You too, Drew. Get up. Scott Kobe, come to that Friday show. The last Friday of the month, you get to sound off. Last Friday of every month. Anyway, what do you got here real quick? Tongue twister time. Do I got time? Barely. Peter Victorino, Tommy Victorino was a minor league infielder with the Dodgers, changed from 40 to 58. His brother Tony was a minor leaguer in the Pirates system from 79 to 70 to 83. Sweet. Pete managed here in Troy for his time with the Tri-City team. So, guys, we got to wrap it up. It's been a lot of fun. As always, have a great Sunday. We'll see you next. Enjoy.
Football season is here, and SeatGeek is my go-to for buying tickets. Now, with SeatGeek, every single ticket is backed with their buyer guarantee. We've all had plans change, and when you can't make it to the big game, SeatGeek has you covered. They're the only ticketer that allows you to return your tickets ahead of the event for credit with SeatGeek swaps. So when things come up, I know that my tickets won't go to waste. So what are you waiting for? Download the SeatGeek app to max.
You're listening to Keith Engle, the host of TGI Sports Talk on the National Streaming Sports Roku channel.